Part 2. You will hear a tour guide giving an explanation of the fort the tour group is about to visit. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully, and answer questions 11 to 14.
Welcome to the fort. Before we enter, I'd like to tell you a bit about the Romans, and their fortresses. In the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire, the Latin word castrum referred to a building, or plot of land, used as a fortified military base. In English, the terms Roman fort, Roman camp and Roman fortress are commonly used instead of castrum. Also, castrum is the origin of the English word castle. A castrum was designed to house and protect the soldiers, their equipment, and supplies when they were not fighting or marching, and one was erected at the end of every day when the army was on the march, so that they could not be attacked by surprise in the night. Legionary forts held about 5,000 men, whereas auxiliary forts held only 500 to 1,000 men. All forts followed the same basic plan, regardless of the size of the fortress or camp. This meant that it didn't matter which legion you were assigned to, you always knew where to go within the camp. It also allowed for messengers to quickly find officers, or the person the message was intended for. Temporary and early forts were built of wood, but more permanent structures were rebuilt in stone, and often became the nucleus of a new town or city, as people built houses outside the defensive walls. This happened because people felt safe living next to the fort, and the fort needed supplies, which meant jobs for people who lived close by. Many towns and cities in Britain, for instance, were formerly the sites of Roman forts, such as Lincoln, Whitchurch, and Exeter, to name just a few.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen, and answer questions 15 to 20.
The map on your tour guide shows you the layout of a typical fort. The fort was placed entirely within the wall, which could be constructed under the protection of the legion in battle formation if necessary. The wall was quadrangular, and aligned on the cardinal points of the compass. Fort walls were about 4.5 meters high, and 3 meters thick. There were also watchtowers at regular intervals along the walls. A deep ditch or moat in front of the walls made it difficult for an enemy to attack, and the dirt from digging the ditch formed a rampart, or agger, between the walls and the ditch. Running from east to west is the Via Principalis, and this intersects with the Via Praetoria, which runs from north to south. In the center of the camp was the headquarters, called the Principia. It contained offices, archives, a shrine, storerooms, a parade ground, and a strong room where the soldiers' pay was kept. Beside the Principia, to the west was the quartermaster's office, and behind it were the granaries, which had raised floors to keep out the damp, and storehouses. On the east side of the headquarters was the Praetorium, where the commander lived with his family. This was often joined to a small forum with shops and a central square. Running along the Via Principalis were the homes of the officers, and directly behind them were the barracks of the units they commanded. The front gate was used for official business, and the back gate was where supplies were delivered, and the area where the cavalry were quartered. The stables were positioned directly inside the back gate, and the barracks for the cavalry were in front of the stables, in the southwest quarter, and across the road from the barracks was the fort's hospital. A Roman fort had public baths as well, but these were usually built outside the defensive walls and agger because of the risk of fire from heating the water. Since much of the fort was wooden, fire was a significant danger.
That is the end of part 2.